Hey there, and welcome to the Warrior Monk Resilience Podcast, where each week we have topics about warrior and monk in terms of resilience. And today's topic is about pressure. So, pressure. The four questions today are: what are types of pressure? How do I train for pressure? How do I remember my brand identity? What is recommitment? What would it look like if I quit? And what would it look like if I continue? Pressure in types of pressure can be external or internal. Oftentimes, that as a man, we start strong and start to slowly get whittled down by pressure, external pressure of having to provide for oneself and for the people that we love, having to develop new relationships, having to do more in the career or step up to more responsibilities, having to travel, which is still behind the finance part, and creating things that, like for me, it would be music, creating music or creating content that would be relevant to the people that we're trying to help or that we are helping once we get the clients. So oftentimes this pressure can turn into fear or of wanting to quit, to confuse stress with failure, to also be stuck in should be's instead of I must be, and these things without these feelings, these emotions without the proper containment can lead to confusion and discouragement. In the book Chop Wood, Carry Water, this constantly talks about in the chapter about the greatest weapon against one's own performance is discouragement. And the other type of pressure that comes with this is the internal pressure of having to meet one's own needs in wanting things, in just personal needs of getting enough sleep, of getting enough food, of having frustrations about relationships or frustrations about friends or with the frustration of one's own personal performance, rising up to the man that I'm trying to be, or the better human that I'm trying to be, that I am being, that I am becoming, and in staying human rather than feeling like a demon. So, with that being said, there are in times where pressure have arisen, internal or external. I have constantly been a person who has been a perfectionist and been labeled a know-it-all, doing to being very intelligent and having to fight those mislabels and being obsessed about the outcome and striving for 100% or in a this pressure of not wanting to go from 100% to 99 to 70 to 60 weighs on me at times, and also in the external side of not wanting to let my teacher down when I was in high school, or not wanting to let my team down, or wanting to carry more, and being in pressure about whether I could trust my teammates to carry the load, or if they won't carry the load, that I would go and pick up the slack regardless of what the circumstances are. And with that, those types of pressure handling have led me to be less reactive to the external world around me. So, how do I train for this? How do I train for being less reactive and embracing pressure and uncertainty and doubt, limits and fears? So, when I was first in my weight loss journey, I had done many different activities. And in Chop Wood, Carry Water, I read a chapter as well about the when you the way you act is in relation to the way that you train. If you train harder than the action that is required of you, then you become more unstoppable, unbreakable, and unshakable to the external circumstances around. Now, in that theory, it's about finding the right exercises to create this mindset, this will, this endurance, stamina, and strength to endure through suffering. I think the biggest misconception as a man is to just stay comfortable. And as men, we are required to suffer and to embrace death over comfort in providing, in protecting, in creating an environment that is for the community that I'm trying to create and am creating as I create these videos and these podcasts, or finding the client, the audience, to move the needle forward to a new network of people. Now, with training, I've done drown proof training, I've done HIIT, I've done powerlifting, and many moments where I had looked to push my limits. As a warrior, chaos is inevitable, and being able to not manage, but to embrace and endure many waves of chaos that happen with and not get swept up by the chaos around me, the noise, remain a signal rather than noise, is the why I train so hard. Some people would say slow down, some people would tell to, just do what's manageable. When training above the requirement of what is necessary, uncomfortable is the only option, and training such a way that is close to redline without redlining. Another training option was VO2 max training, which increases the amount of oxygen consumption that you're able to handle. For me, that led to running till I ran out of glucose and almost passed out from glucose shock. In terms of drown proof training, it's tying my wrists and my ankles together and jumping in the pool. David Goggins had done it, and in doing that as well, it proved to me that I could do something even when I'm drowning, with my hands tied, without the use of my limbs, and be able to leave the pool unharmed, with more courage and more resilience. Now, on the other side of training really, really hard, from the monk perspective, is stillness. So in stillness, I am meditating, doing yoga. I'm releasing the pressure of what was holding me by moving in such a way with purpose. The whole meditation aspect, nature walks as well. when there's no noise around in nature walks, it allows me to turn on my theta energy. And if you don't know what that is, the creative wavelength of my brain is more activated in the morning as a man because we have higher T as a man, and as well in moments of stillness and quiet where my mind can unweave the things that seem unfixable while in the storm, in the chaos, in the fog of war, of what the the mission demands in the mountain. It's more calmer when not engaged, and in the forest, as opposed to being in active engagement in a mission. So other parts of that is in meditation, yoga, and reassessing after I've moved enough to burn whatever is causing doubt, limit, fear, or discouragement. I'm able to also talk better to myself, leaning into losses, leaning into no's, and leaning into resistance and demands rather than suggestions, leaning into the amount of whatever somebody has to say to mislabel and discourage and diss in general creates this storm that at times needs to be released and then accepted as in compassion and empathy, in understanding that I must still love anyways, that I must still re-engage into whatever my mission is. And with those tools of training, of stillness and meditation or movement, with purposeful movement that allows me as well to focus back on myself rather than what is going on around me. The part about that, there's principles in Embrace the Suck that talk about this, where one of the core principles is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. In developing slow, methodical movement, I'm able to move faster without jerky movements, with awareness, and prevent injury or loss in such a way. The other part is embracing the suck, in that sense of embracing chaos, embracing whatever challenges and pressure come my way, and knowing that at the end of this, that this will make me better. And that is where I go into how do I remember my brand identity. After so many no's doing door to door, or something didn't go my way, or things are just not, it feels like I'm not catching up. It feels like I should have done something. It feels like I should quit, even though maybe it's not. I'm still that one yes away, or that one opportunity away from getting what I need in order to move forward, in order to progress in the direction that I am going. And in a sense, it's a sense of confusion, that I'm confusing that this is supposed to be perfect, that this is supposed to be seamless, and in the grand scheme of things, that I embrace all this suck and chaos so that it can be seamless for someone else to enjoy the sinlessness of the experience or the opportunity, and thinking and remembering that it's not about me, that I'm suffering so that I can help the audience, the homeowner, the customer, in a way that allows them to feel helped, or with their outcome of, for me, it's lowering their energy bill. in a relationship, how can I make someone feel seen? How can I make someone feel heard? How do I do these? These are questions that I need to ask myself when my needs aren't always what are needed. So when I do this to remember my brand identity or who I am as a person, I use metrics. I make sure to track things. Now, it can get hard at times to track exactly what's going on and have perfect notes. But as long as I'm doing something that reminds me that, hey, this might have been a crappy day, it's counting where I did the process rather than did I get the deal today, even though I said I promised I'd get a deal today. In that sense, maybe not even over promising on the idea that I get a deal today. The intention is to get a deal today, or the intention is to make someone feel awesome, make someone feel welcomed, make someone feel warm, and not getting lost in the idea that it's not going through because of whatever obstacles that the other person is going through. And recalling experiences when someone else is telling me that I'm not doing as well, or that they demand that I feel this amount of shame, guilt, or disgust or discouragement to what happened today, and remembering my controllables of like that. Did I do everything within my control? This is my personal checklist of things, and it's hard to have a personal checklist and also want validation at the same time, in the sense of that I have this personal checklist. I want you to agree with my personal checklist. You cannot disagree with what the argument or conflict of where I'm meeting myself and what hours I did, or how to optimize that, rather than like you gave me a tool and I used it and I did what I thought was right at the time, and there's nothing more that I can have done in the in the past. In the present, going forward, that's where my after action report comes in, and I'm looking at where I could change something. But while in the mission, while doing the doors, there is not much to change aside from perhaps something I didn't say that I would do at the next door, and just go from there, since there's nothing that can be done once the conversation is over. And keeping with metrics of that I created today, or I went to the gym, remembering that I went to the gym, remembering that I ate healthy today and being thankful for it, remembering that I talked to X amount of people today just to get a conversation going without any need to get something out of it other than to have conversation, meaningful, like something to help light someone else's fire, in the sense of that the fire I carry, the light I carry is the light I give, or the fire I give, and some days it might not be the best fire. It's important that I stay consistent to giving as much as I can of myself, but the showcasing of the best fire that I can give, and knowing when I just don't have anything in the cup right now, that I need to be alone, or that I need to go somewhere else, that so that I can refill my cup, so that I have something in my cup to give. And the tools of those things, it's having spreadsheets, it's being able to track with apps, or to just go and remember the memories, visualize them in my head, and if none of those things are working, to just accept that today I'm going to be a bit more shitty, and that's okay. and do my best to also try not to leak as much of my shittiness today as I would if if I was someone else who's having a bad day and wants everyone else to feel it. Now, the next question is, what is recommitment? What would it be like if I quit? And what would it be like if I continue? And when the pressure is high, there is there are two options: to quit or to continue. And in weighing the cost of those things and asking myself, like, I just applied to a fine dining restaurant that wanted full time hours. And in my desperation for extra money, I said yes to things that I didn't really want to agree with, and caused me intense amount of stress. The deals have not come in for 3 months. I have pending deals. I have leads that I need to go back to everywhere, from Fremont to San Jose to American Canyon to Vallejo, and people that I would never see again. And all of those things caused me to freeze up in such a way that I like, is money really an option to to when it's cutting out so many things out of my life. Indeed has been also talking about this on my Indeed feed about, you know, work more hours or be with the people that you love. Make time for the people that you love, because those work hours will not matter when they leave or when they're gone. I've heard things about the relationships of people who have been married for a long time and have forgotten why they ever fell in love or why they needed each other in the first place. It felt like the whole relationship was now too expensive to continue. And every day they counted the scoreboard about what they're doing that's adding to this expense cost, rather than to what do I appreciate about my significant other. Why what would it be like if they died tomorrow, or if they filed for divorce? How would that feel if I'm not, if I feel like this is too expensive, in the sense of that I'm having to do these things? Or where is the communication that can at least make feelings be heard, the hard conversations that we need to have, that perhaps we've been not having for 10 years, for 15 years, for 35 years, so that we can go back to loving each other? In a sense of the same thing of, I'm not having hard conversations with myself, therefore I am not loving myself in such a way that can show that I'm a man who is secure in the things that he's secure about. Now, I'm not secure about everything. Security comes with the experience of experiencing something, going through it, in the pressure, in the fear, in the doubt, and discouragement, and defying all of those things in order to reach the outcome of a better me, or in the version of me that gets the better people around me, or the better job, or the better responsibilities. And in recommitting to myself, it's thinking, if I quit, what's the cost, and if I continue, what is the cost? And that's something that's very personal. I don't think that anybody should just, off and leave, but it's something to think about it for a couple of days, in a sense of, do I want to quit? I don't want to lose. I don't want to have all of these people prove right. I've been talking whatever garbage in my face that continue to, because of whatever reasons, and say that and have them be right. How can, and even that, it's like a marriage. It's like 15 years, or it's like 10 years of entrepreneurship, and everyone's expecting you to not make anything. Everyone's expecting it to not work out because you didn't do something that they were asking for you to have proof of, that required years of working $0 an hour, of working 20 hours a week, like you had a kid or something that you don't sleep on, that you couldn't. Yeah, and I think of that like with BoJack in terms of like the cat lady who like had it's like business is like this hedgehog baby that hurts you, but you're still believing that at the end of it that it's going to pan out in the end. Um, and yeah, that's my podcast for today. Thanks for listening. If you like, subscribe, leave a comment below, share with someone who might possibly benefit from any of this information. And let's have a discussion about this. Stay strong.